Then let me introduce the program. I hope you have the opportunity to watch the recording, and we have the presentation with different faculty members describing the program and talking about different details. I can show the same presentation, but maybe it will be a waste of time. So I can just briefly show the main points. And I think it would be more valuable if you guys have the opportunity to talk to our graduate and ask questions. So maybe you do have some questions. So let me start with the presentation, but I will try to keep it really short because I think it was already presented in form of video, and you can learn most of it from there. So do you see what I shared? Yeah, so
yes, we do.
I basically included all the slides, but I'm not going to spend much time here. I just want to highlight some important points, and if you have some questions about these slides and specific questions related to these materials, please ask. So as you can find in the video, we talk about our program and we talk about psychology. And I think today I want to emphasize here that psychology is a very broad field, and you can see a variety of methods used in psychology and very different levels of analysis when we think about behavior. Some researchers are talking about psychology in terms of communication between the neurons. They look at the brain level. Some researchers think how our behavior is determined by our social environment. Some researchers look at the children's behavior or look at abnormal behavior. And this is a very big field related to many other fields. And actually, it was found that this is one of the major fields that feed other, I wouldn't say minor fields, but less influential fields. So they actually using our data to, they're using our methods. They are getting ideas from the field of psychology, and these ideas encourage their research and their field development. So it's considered to be a hub science that actually influence other sciences. So in terms of major selection, I think it's a very good choice, because if you select such a field, then it will give you a lot of opportunities for potential job. Like you can do a lot of things with this background. And psychology is related both to natural sciences and arts. It's really the field that stays on intersection of scientific approach and intersection of arts and studies about human mind. Maybe I'm a bit confusing, but the main idea is that it's a big field. It has lots of connections to other fields, and it actually helps you to understand how we think. And what is special about our program is that we have a team of scientists. So we're not just teaching subjects, but we are actually doing research in multiple fields. We have faculty members who are doing studies using neuroscience methods. We have faculty members who are interested in social research. We have faculty members who are doing cognitive research. And if you join our program, you will have the opportunity to be engaged in this research. You can learn about research process, from stimuli generation, conducting studies, and even writing up and presenting the results of the study. And we also teach statistical analysis, so you can learn how to interpret the data that we get from human participants. And then in this presentation, if you watch the video, you can see that we have lots of equipments and we have a variety of research labs where we conduct our experiments. And you can also see the degree requirements, and you can notice that we have different degree requirements for those who were admitted after 2019 and before that. I think we improved our curriculum and our requirements make more sense now. And you have lots of courses that you can select from. And we have core elective courses, a variety of area elective courses covering very different fields of psychology. And we also offer project courses, pure projects. So you can be engaged in research by participating in these project courses and pure project courses. We do a variety of community-related activities. We organize some public events like psychology seminar series or human library, when participants can talk to people coming from very different backgrounds and learn about differences between people who have very unusual traits, or they are in very unusual life situations. And this background will help you to find a variety of jobs. And it seems that psychology is a very popular field, and you can find jobs in the fields related to working with people and data collection and data analysis. You can work in the field related to developmental psychology. So maybe you can work in counseling center or toy design company. You can work in the field related to understanding human behavior in organizational context. So you can work with managers and be involved in selection and training of people. You can select the academic path, and you can be a researcher. You can work in hospital and health center, though that may need additional training. So you can see that psychological degree is a good starting point for a variety of potential jobs. And that's all that I wanted to show in terms of presentation, but I think it would be more useful if we just talk and you will ask your questions. No questions, really. Maybe I can add something. Even if you don't consider psychology as your major, you can consider taking psychology courses. And I think this is very useful even if you don't want to be a psychologist. You can take some of our courses. For example, 201 can be taken by any major, and it will cover different disciplines in psychology. We'll talk about developmental psychology, neuroscience, social psychology. In every week, you see different faculty member. You can take separate courses that if you have some interest in a particular area, you can take this course. And you can be engaged in research activities. You can join labs, offer help. You can be research participant, and we can study your behavior and learn from that. So any questions? If you are very shy, maybe you can type your questions to chat. If you don't have any questions, maybe Irem, who is our graduate, can talk about her experience.
Okay. I might start, and if you guys have any questions, you can always, like, I don't know how you do in the Zoom, but raise your hand or ask a question through the chat. So yeah, I did my bachelor's in psychology in Sabancı University, and I was graduated in 2020. You know, the structure of Sabancı is a little bit weird. Like, I think you, by far, you should have known. In the first year, everybody takes the same courses, and the second year, you get to choose your own major. And I chose something different, not psychology. But then in the third year, I changed my mind, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to spend a lot of time in the lab, I might as well deal with humans, not with machines. So I changed to psychology, but because I wanted to finish in 4 years' time, and I only had 2 years to go, I was kind of like my schedule was full with psychology courses, and I was basically knocking on the doors, if I may say, and like asking for positions for being a research assistant to professors, because by then I knew that I kind of like the research aspect of science. And after my third year, when my third year finished, I did my internship in Tilburg in the Netherlands, again in the university as a research assistant. And then in my senior year, I started applying for other universities for my master's. I wanted to do a research master, which is a little bit different than other types of masters in psychology, which I'll come to later. But and then I got accepted to KU Leuven in Belgium. And but then 2020 was the year in which this little COVID started. So I took a gap year. I didn't want to go at that time. Everything was closed. It was just such a ridiculous like experience of a university, I think. And then I started my master's this academic year, basically in 2021, September. And my master program is called Master of Psychology, Theory and Research, which is not preparing you to become a clinical psychologist. It's not preparing you to become any sort of like psychologist in any subdisciplines of psychology. You're not a developmental psychologist. You're not doing organizational. So it's very different. It's basically, they're putting a lot of statistics courses, ridiculous amount, if you ask me. And then they're preparing you to become a good researcher. And the reason I chose this is because I was kind of certain that I wanted to do like an academic path for me. And I thought first becoming a good researcher is a good step to take in that realm. And then I can just choose whatever subdiscipline I want to work in. So that's basically, in short, my journey of career path so far. It's not really long. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Irem. I just want to add that we work with Irem, and right now we are in the process of submitting the paper, hopefully this week.
Yes.
Yes. And Irem was very, very helpful. So we developed some tasks. We collected the data, we analyzed the data, we wrote up the manuscript, and it was fun, though it was a bit extended experience, but I hope it's almost over.
Yeah, I think it's been 3 years or 2 years, because what happened is that, as Alicia mentioned, there are a lot of research project courses in our program. I think it's one of the best strengths, because that's how I started doing, like, participating in some kind of research. And we started as doing, I think, a pure project. It's one of the programs that you can apply to. It's a competition, sort of. And then we switched to it was a good project, and then we did more on it. So it kind of got extended. But I'm happy that it got extended, because it's going to be, I think, my first article in which my name is on. So it's pretty exciting for me.
Yes, and in addition to that article, in the process of doing the study, we also created a number of tests measuring imagery. So we shared them on OSF. So that's also a contribution with your name.
Yeah. I think,
and also, sorry, just to interrupt, just to make it clear to you, but also to everybody else, that's very early for you to be, you know, kind of halfway through a master's and to already be publishing work that you've done, not even, you know, really as part of a course, but because you wanted to do it as an undergrad. I mean, that's very, very early. So congratulations for that. You've already helping the field and improving the world for people at this young age. But I think that's a really great example of how we approach teaching the science. You know, that's why it's important, because I mean, although that is very impressive, Irem, and you should be proud of that, that's actually not super unusual for our students. I mean, not everybody does that, of course, but a few of them do. And anyone who's interested in working with us and kind of not just kind of doing a class project, but like really doing a project and really like finding something out that nobody's ever looked at before, you know, we all get really excited about that. And there's always room for people who want to do that. And yeah, we take it as seriously as you do, really, and support you whatever you want to find out.
Yeah, I want to add that I think our school provides lots of opportunities. Not all the students are using them. Like yesterday, for a very different reason, I went to the library, and there is a center where they have lots of equipment, like collaborative space. And I see that not many people are using it, but this is such a great place. And I think our program is also potentially a great place. You can find lots of opportunities to work with the faculty member and work even like one by one while being undergrad. And I think if you look at other schools abroad, that's rare, or you should be like graduate student, not undergraduate student. So that's actually something that people don't use very frequently, but they can. So if you're interested in psychology, and if you're interested in psychology research, you can start developing your academic career quite early.
Yeah.
Alessia, one of the things about psychology that's really great, but also can be quite confusing for people who are just, you know, starting to learn about the field, is the sheer breadth and scope of it, and just how many different types of research areas and topics come under psychology. Should we talk a bit about the different, maybe the kind of the main areas of psychology and what they actually cover, and then maybe a little bit about the kind of research that we do within the program? Do you think that would be helpful?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. So yeah, so as I was saying, I mean, psychology, or as we're saying, psychology is the study of mind and behavior, and it's not even restricted to humans. You know, people study behavior and the minds and the mental abilities, even the language abilities of other species as well. So it's a really huge topic, actually. You know, it's you know, that's other people and other things are kind of relevant and interesting to nearly everybody. So there'll always be something in there somewhere that's of interest to you. That's what makes psychology so exciting, really. So as I said, we have these main areas within psychology. They're not really firm divisions, but basically they're the names of courses. And in our case, they're the names of the mandatory courses. Okay, so the big areas within psychology are cognitive psychology. So Alessia and I happen to be cognitive psychologists. So we study, I like to describe it as being kind of like the base operating system of the mind. Okay, so we study things like how we see and hear, how attention works, how memory works, how the basics of language works, or in Alessia's case, how imagination works. In the case of like you shut your eyes and you can see things, like how that type of imagination works, and all these kinds of issues. So cognitive psychology is already a very broad field all by itself, but focusing on how these kind of, as it were, these more low-level basic processes work within the mind. Okay. And then other fields might kind of build on that, or kind of look at people from a different angle. So we also have social psychology, which are looking at humans as being social animals, obviously, and how we behave around and think about and understand other individuals. Okay, people who are maybe members of our group or members of different groups, how groups of people work together, and how come they keep fighting with other groups of people who look almost the same, and what that's about. Yeah. Sorry, Alessia. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, didn't mean anything by that. But you know, that's a perennial problem for all of history, right? So yeah, issues like that. And, you know, we have a lot of people in our program actually that work particularly on relationships, both friendships and romantic relationships. And these all kind of, they come under the umbrella of social psychology. I guess the other sort of main area is developmental psychology, which is focusing on how children grow up and on how people grow old, basically, is how I like to describe it. So studying what kids can do and what kids can understand at different ages, okay, and the way that the processes and the levels of understanding and the habits that we expect from an adult, kind of at what age they appear and how that process works, is developmental psychology, okay? So those are the main ones, but we also have neuroscience, so trying to look at how the brain and the nervous system works, but more from a psychology direction, cognitive neuroscience, we usually call it. We have the study of emotion, which is what I do. Emotion science is a really kind of exploding field right now. And we have applied psychology as well. So people taking psychological concepts and theories and psychological knowledge and trying to apply that to real world problems to try and kind of help somebody or help something, okay? And the most obvious field within applied psychology, of course, is clinical psychology. So abnormal psychology or psychopathology is the study of mental disorders, and clinical psychology is the study of how to make them better and how to help people with various types of problems, okay? But we also have organizational psychology, which is basically the psychology of organizations and the workplace and people working together, yeah? Sports psychology, I'm sure I've forgotten like lots of really huge fields. But yeah, psychometrics, yeah, so the psychology of measurement, basically. So how do you measure aspects of personality? How do you measure attitudes? How do you measure emotions? Okay, and how that works. It's a lot more complicated than it seems. How to design surveys properly. All of these are really complex issues. Okay, so it's a really broad field. So let me just tell you a little bit about what I do. What I actually do when I'm not teaching classes is, as I say, I study emotion, and I'm really interested in how what we think of as emotions interact with what we think of as thinking and more kind of cold brain processes and cognitive processes like attention and memory and decision making, that kind of thing, okay? Because traditionally we think of those as being very separate, and you can't think clearly if you're too emotional. But over the last few decades, we've started to understand that that's completely wrong. Okay, they're two sides of the same coin. So I spend a lot of time looking at how, say, anxiety and depression influence your ability to do other things, how they affect your decisions, how they affect your perceptions of things. Okay. Alessia, what do you do?
Currently,
yeah,
I think I'm thinking about submitting the paper with IREM, and this paper is about imagery and language. And my current graduate student is also doing something related to imagery and language interaction and memory and language interaction. And I think what is good about this program is that we do a lot of collaborations with each other. So I was not that much interested in language, but then by collaborating with Junko, I started to think about this more. So the project that I'm talking about, IREM is involved, but it was done in collaboration with Junko and also Ozginor, another student. And now I have a pure project where we developed imagery tests, and IREM is actually part of this team. So despite that she is a student in a different university and already graduated from Sabanci, she is involved in development of imagery tasks. And I think that's the thing about research. It's not something that you do for, I don't know, for money or for specific course. You just get curious and you want to do more, and it motivates you to do even more.
Yeah, in some ways it's the best job in the world, isn't it? If anything that you're interested in, you're allowed to go and find out about it. It's
exactly.
We're very spoiled, very fortunate. Yeah. So shall we just kind of review what some of the other people do in the program? Because I mean, those are the higher elective courses, and also those are the projects that people can get involved in if they wish to. Yeah. So in no particular order, who else do we have? Talking about language, yes, we have Junko, who is an expert on language, and particularly language learning. So, I mean, I'm going to do a really bad job of explaining anybody else's life's work, obviously. But what Junko basically does, as I understand it, is she's interested in how kids kind of learn second languages. So she does these really fun projects. She's got a lab full of robots, actually, kind of educational robots that are designed to kind of help teach kids to learn languages. And she kind of does studies with those, which is really interesting stuff. We have Nihang, who is really an expert on neuroscience. So she is particularly interested in perception, as I understand it, and how your eyes and your visual brain kind of put together the information that you see and understand it as like as a coherent picture, how you can put different aspects of what you're looking at together and understand that it's one thing that you're looking at. Okay, she's also interested in face perception, as I understand it. But her lab is a really interesting place to be, because she's also the EEG expert. So she does studies where she kind of glues 70 different sensors to your scalp and records what your brain is doing while you're looking at various things. So that's fun to do. We have Irene as well, who's also an EEG person, but focuses more on attention and on very short-term memory. So how kind of your memory guides your attention and vice versa. I'm really simplifying and messing that up, I'm sure. I'm just happening to do the kind of the more cognitive people first. You know, I'm not going in any order here. So the last cognitive, or mainly cognitive person, is Charla, who is really an expert on autobiographical memory. So people's life stories, basically people's memory for their life history and their experiences and their knowledge. Okay, so yeah, a very different type of memory from what, say, Irene is studying. Okay, so one of the first things you'll learn in psychology class is that you've not got one memory system. There's loads of little ones that seem to be kind of separable. Alicia, can I just hand over to you for a second? I'm running out of battery, I realize, on my computer. Sorry,
okay,
one
sure.
second.
I think you talked about all psychology members who are doing cognitive research. I can talk about the social ones. So we have actually several researchers who are interested in relationship science, and they study interpersonal relation and close relationships, relationships between people who are going to get married, between those who are divorced, between those who lost their child and go through difficult times. And we also have Chidam, who is interested in intergroup relations, so how people from a certain group would form the relationship with people from a different social group, and maybe is interested in relationships too. It's just not on the slide. And in addition to that, he is studying driving behavior. So he is doing something related to cognitive psychology. And I would say many of us, despite we kind of going in two tracks, social and cognitive, many of us do things that are on intersection of these fields. For example, Junka and Chidam are studying the perception of robots as being out-group members. So this is very interesting. Chala is studying culture and memory. So memory is more cognitive aspect, but culture is not only cognitive. So she is doing something on the intersection of social psychology and cognitive psychology. Many of us are actually interested in child psychology, and child development also includes both social cognition and cognitive development. So these are the different areas that we are doing research in. Maybe you guys can ask questions. So actually, without any feedback, it's hard to understand what you want to. Yeah.
Sorry, like I had a question, like it was a direct message, and it was about the internship processes and the projects that are going on in our program. So I wanted to like kind of jump in. So, and what I did in terms of projects, I think I can start with them. I did a peer project and like 2 peer projects. I did a Nose Good project, which is another thing. And I took 2 research courses, like project courses called Proj 102 and 101, I think. I'm not really sure, but these are the courses that you actually take with credits. But how it happened, except for the pure, I always talked to the professors. I always, like, as I told you, in my 3rd year, I really went to people, like I knocked on their door, and then I was like, okay, I just started psychology. I want to do something. Can you give me something? And something like that. But very understandably, a lot of professors initially were like, I don't know you. And so one semester they got to know me, and then I got to work with, for example, Asuman Büyükcantetik, so one of the professors here. And then I got to work with Olesia because she knew that I wanted to work with her, both of them. So whenever there was an opening, they kind of mentioned it. So I think talking to your professors is very, very important in that sense. That's how I got started doing a lot of projects. And Pure Project, though, it's a little bit different. It has a website. It has certain subjects that you can apply for, that you can say, I want to do this. And I did 2 projects there. One of them was, again, with Olesia, and the other one was a completely different project. It was about how news reporting is different, how news reporting is the language in news reporting versus cultural reporting. And it's something like that. It was a little bit different, but that's how you do it. You don't generally talk to professors there. You can just apply for the project. So these were the possibilities. And when it comes to the internship, that was the other side of the question. So I applied for Erasmus Plus internship. I wanted to do my internship abroad, but when you apply for it, you actually apply for the grant. You're not applying for the loan or whatever, for the money basically, but not exactly for a specific internship. They don't give you that. Actually, they have a list, but the internship that I found was like, I found it was not on the list. But after I finished my internship, the next year, they put it on the list of Erasmus Plus internships. So people could just apply for that and go. So you have possible options for that in Erasmus internship. Like you can both find your own internship, which is a little bit hard, or you can apply for one of the listed ones. So this is how you do it in terms of internship. Yeah. I think if I didn't explain anything, you can always write it again, write down a question. Yeah.
Thanks, Irem. I think that sounded very clear to me. Just to clarify, I mean, Proj courses and the Pure projects and internships as well are universal for Sabancı. I mean, they're not specifically psychology procedures, but we take them very seriously. We always have Pure projects available. We always have Proj. It's 201 now, I think. They've changed the code, but we always have like a Proj open for interested students every semester. And again, one of the nice things about psychology is that it's a relatively young science and it's a relatively broad science where we study all kinds of things in all kinds of ways. So if you're involved in what would seem to be like a class exercise, in psychology, it's very often the case that you're actually doing valuable work and actually doing kind of real cutting edge science, even if it's just kind of you with pen and paper going around and kind of giving questionnaires to your friends. I mean, that can be a way of collecting really kind of useful, actually kind of doing real science within psychology. Sometimes we use the big expensive machines, but sometimes we just need, a pen and paper and somebody to answer our questions. So I think these kinds of project courses, these opportunities work very well within psychology.
May I add something to this? For me, these are projects where I was doing projects in very different areas. I did projects with Osman Hoca about like relationships and autobiographical memories. It was with Çağla Hoca as well, both of them. And then I did projects with Olesia, which is more on the cognitive side, it's imagery and it's language. And I did my other research in different areas, but then I think they're valuable in a sense that I realized what I like and what I didn't. And that was very, very important for me because if you haven't figured out, I'm really indecisive. It's hard for me to get like, what do I like? Yeah, I would completely like, even if you don't think about research, I think they kind of provide you with a different kind of understanding of the field, like what you need to do, which makes you understand whether you actually like it or not, in any sense. So.
Yes, and I think in terms of teaching, if you take a class, and usually our classes are offered by people who are actually doing research in these fields, it feels very different than just, reading textbook, because many of us are doing cutting edge research. They know what is going on in their fields, and you can get insights about this field, and that I think is a unique opportunity, that our teachers are actually contributors to psychological knowledge, not just transmitters of this knowledge.
Very true. I mean, I'm talking about my friends here, not myself, but like the faculty here is really good, guys. They're important people. I mean, I think it's always a good sign when you're taking a lecture from somebody and they're just talking about something and suddenly they're talking about their own work in the middle of the lecture, and they're not being egotistical. It's because they're the ones who've done the important work in that area. That's something that happens in our classes quite a lot. Very, I'm quite intimidated by some of my colleagues in psychology. They're very, very good. Hey, Rem, here's kind of a random question. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about, don't forget that Alessia and I are here, but it's just kind of forget we're here and just kind of maybe tell us what your favorite course was, or your favorite courses were, or maybe kind of something that you learned at some point in your program that just kind of went, that's sort of like a really tasty little factoid that you kind of rush to tell other people. I've just found this out. Isn't this amazing? Anything like that stick in your memory?
My favorite course was this seminar course by Junko. First of all, we didn't have any exam, but that's not the reason. It's a language course, and we were reading articles every single week, which is something that I really do like. And we were preparing every week, but then we were also writing some papers in the course. And this this course was, I think it was kind of like very important in my little tiny career so far, is because it got me realize that I enjoy language research. And I thought at that moment, I was like, I'm going to be like language researcher, and I'm kind of like living my emotions at the top, and I'm like, this is what I do, like this, I found myself. And then I realized it's not actually what I want to do, but then it kind of opened the gates for me to the cognitive side of psychology, with Alessia, to be honest. And so that was very, very important for me, because it not the course particularly itself, it was very fun, but I think it kind of led me to somewhere what I want to do. And now I'm kind of building on my thesis and whatever I'm doing right now in my master's on like more cognitive side of psychology. So that was, I think, my favorite course. A little factoid, I don't know. It's hard, but actually what I remember is that I learned to be punctual after our program in Sabanciuniv. What happened?
After our project, I think. I cannot tell how many times Irem redid data file. By the way, Irem, if you want to help to organize the data file for the publication today,
okay.
you can contact me. But if you can't, I can finalize it. But yes, you name the variables in unclear way. Then you start to analyze the data file, and like, oh no, I don't understand what I did in the past. So you have to do it again, or you see the mistake, you download the data again, then you see that you forgot to include reaction time, you have to run the study again, like you change the things, oh, you forgot the randomization, especially if you have many things to measure. Yeah, you learn good habits after many failures.
I cannot express how it's I'm gonna say frustrating, but not in a bad sense. Like Alessia knows, I think, my views on it. Like, I'm not gonna complain. I wouldn't complain. It's just that I messed up the data so many times. I was like, I shouldn't do it. I was like, I was embarrassed. Like, because Alessia is doing analysis in one program and Junko is doing in another, and it's different. Like, and I'm like, I prepared the data files, and it was just very, yeah, awesome days. So yeah, I got to learn that. But also about being punctual. One day I had this paper for Robert's lecture, and let's say, I don't remember the exact time, but we needed to submit it like physical copy to his office. Let's say 5:30, and then I was there at 32, not 30, because there was a problem with the copy machine. I looked, and he was not there. He closed his room and he went away in like 2 minutes. I was like, how? And then I got like a reduction of grade or anything, which I totally deserved. I was late, but and then it's I think it's a good habit to be punctual after that.
I mean, I know your experience. When I submitted my there is in graduate school, in PhD program, there is an exam that you have to take on the way, and it was also a paper. And I luckily I was on time, but I almost missed the deadline. And I remember I brought my paper. It was printed, just printed, and I recall that it was hot, like the paper was. I remember this haptic feeling. Like,
Okay, you students, we're just going to carry on kind of talking nonsense at each other for hours if you let us. So what would you like to know about psychology? What would you like to know about us? What would you like to know about the meaning of life? What would you like to ask us?
If nobody asks, I think I can maybe mention something about how wide of a range psychology subdisciplines are. Recently, we had a break here in my school, and everybody went away, and I got into physics. I started learning some physics, and then I realized that actually consciousness research and psychology can be very much in together with kind of quantum physics. So that's kind of like my aim for one of my assignments right now, that I'm trying to combine how the conscious how the quantum mechanics is the causal reason of conscious arousal of consciousness. So that's interesting. I think like you can just combine these completely weird and different disciplines together. It's just it's, I don't know, it's a big field, and I can say.
It is, yeah. I'm always saying in my classes, like we are lucky enough and unlucky enough to be studying the most complex object and the most complex system in the known universe. The most complicated thing that humans have ever found is right here, So it's a very difficult problem to understand it, but it also means that there's so many different connections that you can find, and so many different ways that you can look at it, so many different ways that you can measure it. You can, because it's humans at the end of the day, so you can find a connection to almost anything else that you're interested in. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very generous thing to be dipping into and learning about. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been doing it a very long time now. I've been doing it 20 years, and I'm still excited about it. I mean, that's the best advertisement I can give for the field, really.
I totally share your feelings. Oh, someone wants to ask the question. Please ask.
Thank you. So I actually want to study political science and international relations, but as Professor Alessio, you said, I'd love to take some classes from psychology because I'm really interested in it. So I'm in my second semester right now from freshman year, and probably next year I'll be able to take other classes from psychology as well. So which class would you recommend for me to take?
I get your question. I think I would recommend everyone to take Psych 201, as it is just a big course that involves almost all faculty members, and each week we cover a new topic. Basically, we talk about different fields in psychology, and you can approach a professor there, and you can see what part of psychology is the most interesting for you. Also, this course is prerequisite to a majority of other courses. So, for example, if you want to learn more about social psychology or out-group behavior, which I think may be very relevant in your case, then you will need 201 as a prerequisite.
Okay, then. Thank you so much. Very helpful.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, and it's if I'm not wrong, it's usually Chidem Hoca who teaches the basic social psychology course as well, right? And Chidem Hoca is our intergroup relations expert. So yeah, definitely take Psy 201. But if you've got room for another one, that's the one that's most likely to be relevant for you, especially if you can take it from Chidem Hoca. She's the one who's most likely to know the answers to your questions. Let me put it that way.
Right. Thank you so much, both of you.
Okay. Noor has a question. Please ask.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm interested in creation of more sentinel technologies, and technologies have issues. And I'm thinking about a double major in computer science and psychology. Do you think it's logical? Can it be done?
I think it's very logical, and actually in our psychology classes, we do have lots of fans people, and when the program just started, I was I started teaching here when we didn't even have a bachelor program. I think at least half of the students were from FEMS, engineers, computer scientists. And I think this is actually a really, really great opportunity. I think in terms of what you can do now, you can already maybe try to participate in research as a participant. You can come and offer your time and help in the labs which use EEG, like Nihan Alp or Rem Gonzeli. You can see how students live there, how they, you can talk to them. I think if you can just go there and offer yourself to be a participant, you can experience it. You can see how they do it. You can ask them questions. And I think that's a great combination. I think actually many of the psychologists benefit a lot from this knowledge of computer science and knowing programming. That's a great combination. So, and also if you have like non-psychological major, but psychological knowledge in addition, that opens many doors for you in the future.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a formal double major. I'm not entirely sure.
We do.
Okay. We certainly have a lot of CS students in all of our classes, as Alessia says. That's very, very common. And yeah, you're right. Skills that you have would be useful. It's always nice to have CS people in the lab as well. You can trust them with certain tasks that maybe you can't so easily trust with other people. But also there's actually such a long history of especially cognitive psychology and CS people working together. There was a joint research group in my old school in England, actually. So we have, within cognitive psychology, we have kind of theoretical modeling, people trying to build models of little areas of the brain, kind of programming little things that work like brain cells and connecting them together and trying to train them to do stuff to see if they end up behaving in the same way that real humans do, neural network modeling, connectionist modeling. So there's a long history. Yeah.
Cognitive robotics as well.
Yes,
I think we do have some studies, and you can check pure projects I think Junka offers some very interesting project together with FENS. So we do collaborate with FENS faculty in our research as well. Nihan does, Junko does, Eren maybe too.
Yeah, so I mean, just maybe it's, I like your passion. Maybe it's a little bit too early to decide what you're going to do with your entire life at this point. It's a good idea though. I'm just saying, kind of dip your toes into cognitive psychology and see what piques your interest. But you'll definitely, yeah, you'll definitely find somebody who can answer your questions again.
Thank you very much for your answer.
You folks don't have to be so formal, by the way. You're all raising your hands very politely, which is very nice, but you can just kind of unmute and start talking. That's fine as well.
I'd like to add something to the reply for Nurefshan. It's just even if you don't study CS, taking coding courses is just the most amazing idea, I think, at this point. Robert warned me about it, and I thought my little CS, like C++ course was going to save me, but it didn't. So it's I think at least what I perceive here, maybe because of the program that I'm taking, like that I'm participating in, but what I see is that you have to know certain type of coding. Even if you don't code yourself, you have to understand the script of a code. Like it's psychology research, and in some of my courses I can't even open up my lecture slides without some sort of coding. Just it's very weird right now in the field, I think. So it's very good idea for everyone, I think, to learn some sort of coding, at least to understand how to read it.
For data analysis as well, so much of kind of, if you get beyond the basics of statistics and data analysis, then you're sooner or later you're typing your analyses rather than point and clicking them. Yeah, so the more familiar you are there, the better. I mean, we make it accessible for our psych majors, of course we do, but yeah, if you want to go beyond that, then yeah, that's definitely, yeah, something that I wish I'd been forced to take courses on when I was an undergrad as well.
I guess we don't have any more questions. Is that right? So maybe then we should end the session. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you everyone for coming and asking questions. And I enjoyed talking to Rob and Rem. So yeah, thank you.